Welcome back, Bannock folks. You're tuning in to another episode of Bandecdotes, the podcast that holds it down for the underground sound here in Ontario, Canada. And I'm your host, Phil Paxton. Thank you for joining me today. If you're new to the show, what we do is we bring people from the music industry, whether it's musicians, promoters, or photographers, anyone involved in that event planning. We get them on the show, get them to plug whatever they've got going on, whether it's their band, their project that they've got going on, a company, any sort of endeavor that they need to talk about. This is the show that they're going to talk it about. And on the way, we get them to tell some of the funniest and wildest stories they have from working and being in bands and all that wild band culture. Because, everybody knows that bands spend a lot of time together, and they're essentially a family, so they got a lot of inside jokes and spend a lot of time together, so there's going to be funny moments, and this is the show where you hear all that stuff. Now, if you're not watching on YouTube, I would love if you did. Head on over, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Everyone listening and watching, give this video a like. That helps me in the long run. And check out us on Instagram. That's where we do all our news updates, talking about what guests we have coming up. We post clips before the show and episode drops. We talk about shows that we're putting on our Instagram. So definitely check us out there. That's at Bandecdotes, Bandecdotes. Now, speaking of shows, we've got lots of cool local Ontario shows happening. Friday, June 3rd, 2 days from now in Ottawa, we have Protest the Hero with the Phallological and Salem Trials at Bronson Centre Theatre. In Toronto that night at Sneaky D's, we have Send the Ravens, Diamond Weapon, Sky Caught Fire, and My Evil Twin. Saturday, June 4th in Peterborough, we have Choices Made with Napoleon, Nothing Serious, and the Bayside Dropouts at Historic Red Dog. In Hamilton that night, we have Scabs Off, The Slime, and Rest Heaven at the Doors Pub. But if you're in Cambridge that night, head on over to Rhythm and Brews Brewing Company. Pink Lemonade and Have Hope presents We're Back with Pew Pew Pew, The Anti-Queens, Handheld, The Flying Hellfish, Frank Ducks, Your Pal Bill, Psychic Void, Coon and the Bad Look, Koi Pussy, Miravirum, Pep Talk, and Midwife Crisis. Monday, June 3rd in Toronto, we have Satanic Surfers, No Fun at All, Chaser, and Choices Made at the Velvet Underground. Comeback Kid are doing a run of shows. June 9th at the Warehouse in St. Catharines, June 10th at the Community Center in Mount Elgin, June 11th at Tie Down Fest in Detroit, and June 12th at Rec Room in Buffalo. Wednesday, June 15th in Kitchener at the Study Room, aka Ask a Punk, we have Massanera, Terry Green, and Basque. Constrain and Reality Denied are playing a handful of shows together. June 16th, they're at the Milton Legion. June 17th, they're at Doors Pub in Hamilton. And June 18th, they're at Vast Drovey in Toronto. Thursday, June 16th in Toronto, we have the Maysides celebrating their release of their new beer, Good Old Haze IPA, with the Royal North, and that's just at the Warehouse. June 19th, Sunday, in Windsor, we have Hexus with Hell is Other People, and Nertheriath at the Backstage. Our friends in Trauma Model are playing a bunch of shows with Hexus. Starting off that show, we have a Bandecdotes exclusive show happening in St. Catharines, presented by us truly. We've got Hexus, Kothra, and we just added Trauma Model to the bill, Temple of Night, and Deciphering the Pale. That's at Warehouse. Make sure you go grab tickets for that. But moving forward, Trauma Model and Hexus are playing June 22nd in Kingston at Overtime, June 23rd in Ottawa at Dominion Tavern, June 25th in Montreal at Piranha Bar. Tuesday, June 21st in Ottawa at Brass Monkey, we have Suffocation, Atheist, Surreptition, Intrill, and Gland. And that's in Ottawa that night. Thursday, June 23rd in Toronto at Hard Luck, we have Dayglow Abortions with their Hate Speech album release, with Citizen Rage, Dragged In, and Losers. In Hamilton that night, At the Doors Pub, we have Cognitive, Tombstoner, Lorcator, and World's Grasp. Friday, June 24th in Windsor. At the Backstage, we have Cognitive, Tombstoner, and Vile Driver. Saturday, June 25th in Niagara Falls at the Upper Space, we have Fight Wars, Not War. Red Cross Benefit Show with Welland Wasted, Borden City Beatdown, Dominion, Elephant, and Sin. In Ottawa that night at House of Targ, we have They Grieve, Kothra, Moratorium, and Grandmother. Wheatus and Kixie are doing a couple shows together. June 24th at the Bitmore Theater in Oshawa, June 25th at the Legion in Tilsonburg, and June 26th at the Casbah in Hamilton. And a couple months from now, September 9th and 10th in Mississauga at the Hansa House, Damage Control presents with Solus Music Promotions, Hold Your Ground Fest 22. Never Ending Game, Mind Force, Pain of Truth, Dare, Momentum, Gridiron, Cohesion, Cold Shoulder, Endgame, Mile End, and many more. Get your tickets at holdyourgroundfest.com. Wow, lots of cool shows happening in Ontario right now, so there's no excuse. You gotta go out there. You know, if you want to wear a mask, that's totally fine. If you don't have the vaccine, doesn't matter. Political views aside, let's make shows happen again. I was just at Slipknot last night, and it was a blast. There were so many people there, and, you know, I had seen them before, but it was so good to see them again. They put on such a fucking awesome show. Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's talk about my guest this week. All right, let's go on about Kenny Holt. Kenny Holt was a great person that I had met for the first time on the show. You know, he reached out and told me about a lot of the cool projects. He plays in the Maysides, which we talked about. They're playing the Warehouse, celebrating their release of their new beer, good old Haze IPA, with the Royal North. That's just at the Warehouse. Yeah, very excited that he came on the show. You know, he's from over the pond. He's from England, so he has, and he's traveled a lot. He had lots of cool stories. He just recently visited Iceland, where he came across the Dick Museum. That was really funny, and you know, he tells us all sorts of really cool stories about how he ended up in Ontario, all the cool bands that he's toured with. Yeah, this one was a lot of fun. All right, folks, let's jump right into it.
Yeah,
We're like,
worst.
like your load up is upstairs.
Yeah.
That's where the bands get to hang, so it's not even quiet, right?
No.
It's now.
No, it was, it was not meant to be. I think, if anything, I think with Timmer and Eric, they started working there just as, like, a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And then it took, 3-4 years of shows there, and then finally Eric was like, okay, no, I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Good to go? Right on. Welcome back, folks. You're watching another episode of Bandecdotes. The t-shirt of the week is Stolos. They're a black metal band from Guelph. And my guest this week is Kenny Holt. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So do you want to tell the audience a bit about yourself?
Oh, boy. Yeah, I mean, I'm Ken. Born in London, England. I've been here knocking on 19 years now, actually.
Wow.
19 years. Yeah, May 30th, 2003. So,
Really?
Yeah, 19 years. Still got the accent. But if I didn't have that, I'd have nothing going for me. So, but yeah, no, for the last knocking on a decade now, just been touring with various bands, and, you know, as mentioned, I'm sure we'll talk about some of them, but yeah, been doing lots of records, recording, you know, I've done tons and tons of touring, and it's been amazing.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. Perfect for the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you got quite a bit of stories. But you play in a band called the Maysides.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. And have you always, were you there from the start with them? Or?
Basically, yeah. I mean, when they released the first record, when we released the first record, I should say, it was 2013, and I didn't do the album release show, but I was there from every other show after that.
Onward.
So, yeah. It's been 9.5 years now.
And
so,
that's how long the band's been going for. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys got some rocking tunes. You guys are punk rock and doing some. But you guys got a new record coming out.
We have a new record coming out. It's been in the works for a while, but obviously, the thing that shall not be mentioned today kind of screwed things up for a little while there. So. Yeah, we got a new record coming out, but then more sooner than that, we got a new single coming out with a new music video, and
Oh, that's exciting. Can you talk a bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, what's the record?
Record is going to be called Gaslighting.
Nice.
New single is called Material. We recorded a music video last August for it, and then we just kind of never released it because then shows kind of started up again. And then, we had a bunch booked, and then shows got canceled again. So now that shows are just full on, we didn't want to release it just for the sake of releasing it, right?
Yeah.
So now that shows are back on, we got a big one in St. Catharines next month, and we're gonna release it in time for that and get everybody stoked, and
That's exciting, and then the music video is also in the works.
Yeah. So that one will be out in time for the show as well.
Cool.
And, yeah.
Very exciting. And now, actually, when you came in here, you mentioned that you were wearing a Motorhead shirt. Do you want to mention why that you're wearing that?
It's 8th of May.
Yeah.
We're recording this on the 8th of May, and it's International Motorhead Day.
That's super cool.
So, as you said, if Star Wars can have a day, Motorhead can have a day.
That's exactly, yeah. I want that to be known, folks, the 8th of May. Because that's the first time I've ever heard of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. No. Lemmy forever.
Yeah, that's great. So where did you record the new record?
So our bass player, long-standing bass player named G.I., he actually has a recording studio up in Owen Sound.
Oh, cool.
This is where he lives. It's kind of where he works. He works with a couple of record company-esque sort of things, songwriting groups and stuff. So, basically in between his writing sessions, we squeezed in, do a week here, a week there sort of thing. So it
was really comfortable recording with them.
I mean, it's great,
with the
right?
bandmate, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, and he kind of acted as a producer in a sense as well. So, it was great.
That's good to have someone on board. We were actually just talking about that before you mentioned how producers are so, they're key when they're key. Not just like a band member who's willing to mention hey, let's do this.
Yeah, no.
This doesn't sound good or.
No, they're key. The thing is that a lot of people don't realize it, but you've got to have a whole team around you. You need the agent, you need the publicist, you need the producer, you need the videographers, you need the photographers, you need the graphic artists people. So 4 guys in a band, sure, but there's 40 guys behind the scenes, guys and girls, obviously. But there's 40 people behind the scenes making things happen.
It's a lot of people doing a lot of things.
So it takes a village.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And did you mention when the record's gonna be out?
I don't have a release date yet.
No release date,
but the single will be out soon enough.
So keep your eyes peeled for that. Yeah.
It'll be on the socials.
Yeah, for sure. And are the tours in sight now that things are finally opening up?
Yeah, there's a couple of dates floating around. I mean, obviously the big one in June for us, and then we're doing a big one in the fall in Niagara Falls. Can't say what that one is yet. But then towards the end of the year there'll be some sort of Ontario tour, based around the record or whatever we decide to end up doing.
Right on. Yeah. And you folks have a very popular song, Kegger. Yeah. Do you guys bust out a keg every time on stage?
Yeah. We got a keg. I got it sitting in my front porch right now. It's all graffitied up, ready to go.
It's the same one every time.
It's the same one every time. Yeah. But we always do a keg stand. You can't have a song about keggers and then not do a keg stand on stage.
It makes sense, yeah.
Absolutely.
Is it a different beer every time?
No. It's usually the same beer.
Yeah, and then any preferred? What is it?
Okay, so to be honest with you, the whole keg is actually a facade. It is a keg, but then what I did is I cut the top off and I put a sleeve on the inside.
Sure.
And we get one of those Heineken Bubba kegs every night, right?
Nice.
So then it looks like, if you're in the audience, it looks like a full keg.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't go on stage with a little Heineken. That would look stupid.
That would look hilarious.
So we just put a Bubba keg inside there and then we just drink that.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I've definitely gone to parties years ago where someone had the little Bubba and we were doing keg stands on the little tiny thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're right. It looks hilarious. It's right.
Oh, for sure.
Would be quite funny if you guys had that on stage.
Well, it'd be even more ridiculous. I mean, we did it at the Sound Academy when we did a couple of tour dates with Steel Panther, right? And so, with a normal keg, looks amazing, right? The lights
Yeah.
are going, normal keg stand, whatever. But yeah, a little bubba keg in front of 3,000 people, that's bloody stupid.
Yeah.
So no, we kind of mocked something up.
Yeah, well, and you can't bring a real keg every time. You're gonna be drinking foam the entire.
Well, that's the thing,
Yeah.
right? You know, and I mean, there's got to be a best before date on a keg of beer.
That's right.
I can only drink so much, you know, like, you know.
That's great. And you have some solo music that you've been working on.
Yeah, like it's been a long time coming, but in between, because you know, so many of the guys and so many bands, they're all married with kids and stuff, and I'm not married. I mean, this is a bloody facade, you know. This is just a cool looking ring, you know.
Hey, it's pretty cool.
But yeah, no, I don't have a wife or kids or anything, so like I occupy my time with, you know, more and more music, and I mean, I don't know, 6 months ago or something, I started taking piano lessons. It's something I've always wanted to do.
Oh, cool.
And then, yeah, like, I've been, you know, writing and recording my own record. So everything with that record is completely different to Maysides, completely different to Lambs, completely different to Hurricane, completely different to Odds, which is the acoustic stuff that I used to do. We record it in a different manner. We just, yeah, everything is just different and raw and rock and roll about it. So
under Kenny, is it?
yeah, just under Holt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Holt.
Yeah, I've got the umlauts over the O, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But then, yeah, so after we'd done the June show with Maze,
yeah,
my first single will be out in July sometime. I'm thinking end of July, and it's called Eyes on 55. And
right on.
If anybody from Niagara is listening, you're gonna know what was on at the end of Highway 55. You know, so the greatest / worst strip club ever. So, because here's the thing, right? Motley Crue did Girls, Girls, Girls.
Yeah.
About the best strip clubs.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, you know what? It's better than that. Let's write a song about the worst strip club. So we did.
Nice.
Bloody great.
Yeah. London's got a fun strip club called the Beef Baron.
Oh, the Beef Baron.
Really aggressive with that name.
Yeah, never been.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can put that in a song. I'll think of something. You know, that'll be my next one.
Yeah, that'll be the next one.
Yeah.
So, how was the writing process like doing the solo stuff versus the whole band?
It's different. I think like sometimes I don't know, because you know sometimes like Maysides is what Maysides is, right? And like, you know, if you put a Maysides record on, that sounds like a Maze record. If you put an AC/DC record on, it sounds like an AC/DC record, right? And so like for me, there was no like structure or things that I had to adhere to. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna write this one because that's gonna be like the radio hit or something,
right?
You know, so like whatever worked with the song and the lyrics and the melodies and stuff, and you know, so I mean, like with Eyes, that's just a straight up rock and roll song. But then I've got a song called Letters, which basically is not to sound too deep for a second, but basically the idea of Letters was that I was writing a love letter to the part of myself that I hate the most.
Sure.
Seeking forgiveness and all the rest of it through all the hard times that everybody goes through.
Yeah.
So it was just very, very liberating in that sense, because I could just kind of do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
There was no expectation. There was no structure. There was nothing.
Sounds very therapeutic.
Very, yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned it. How'd you end up in Ontario? Like, what was it like from coming in from England? Why Ontario?
Because I think like 20, 25 years ago, you know, my parents kind of saw the way England was going, and I mean, like, it's evident now. I mean, I don't know if they've got a crystal ball or something, but you know, with everything with Brexit that happened, like, I mean, my parents, you know, they wanted a better life for their kids, right? And so you know, we had some relatives here at some point. We came over, we liked the place, we ended up moving. Ironically, everybody has moved back since.
Oh, really?
Just through life circumstances.
Just how
and stuff,
it goes.
Right? That's how it is. And my brother actually lives in France, so I was the only one that kind of stayed.
Yeah.
And it's worked out well for me. I mean, you know, it's hard to judge whether my life would be better there or here.
Right.
I will say I just got back from there.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be things that you miss as your homeland or whatever. But like I've been here 19 years now, you know, like I mean the only place that we knew when we moved was Niagara on the Lake, because I guess that was what my mum knew. So we got a house in Niagara on the Lake, and then at some point in time, I ended up living in St. Catharines because of music and bands and work and whatever. And yeah, I'm just here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So, like, did you get into, like, punk rock music while you were in England? Or was it, like...
Well, I moved here when I was, like, 14 or 15, right?
Okay.
So, like, I was kind of developed musically. Like, I kind of knew the things that I liked. And that started because my mom, when I was growing up, would always listen to bands like Bowie and T-Rex and Status Quo and Queen and Bruce Springsteen or whatever. And my dad was like polar opposite. He used to listen to like a lot of country western, so like Don Williams, Chris Christopherson, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right? And then so like I liked all of it and it was cool, but when I was like, 10 or 11, I was like trying to find like that band that was like that sound, that thing that I was trying to identify with. And, Blink-182 was huge at the time. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, but it's not like exactly what I want. And then Nirvana was like on a resurgence. Obviously, Kurt Cobain had passed at this point, but
Right.
the popularity of Nirvana was kind of on a resurgence. And, I was like, yeah, that's cool, but it's not quite there. And then one day I discovered Guns N' Roses and I listened to Slash for probably 2 seconds and I'm like, that's it. That's the sound. That's the look. That's it. Right?
Yeah.
And so at that point in my life, I think my parents used to give me like £5 allowance for the week.
Okay.
And so I saved up for 3 weeks to go buy Appetite for Destruction. Now, when you buy CDs and movies in Europe, they've got an age consent on them. So, like, you have to be like 12 or 15 or 18 to buy the movie or whatever. And so I went down there as a 12-year-old with my £15 and I bought Appetite for Destruction and I wore the thing out.
Yeah.
I wore the thing out because, like, by the time that you get to It's So Easy, I'm like, man, what is this? Like, it is so good,
Yeah.
And then from there, like, yeah, obviously, like, I discovered, Skid Row and Motley Crue and Whitesnake and God knows what else, right? And yeah, the 80s is just the best.
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
And you were playing music when you were in England
yeah,
too?
Yeah, because of Slash, I was like, man, like, I should learn to play guitar.
Yeah.
And I think my brother started playing drums for a hot minute before I kind of got into music and, like, started playing guitar. But then he kind of fell off and never did anything with it. But yeah, like, as soon as I discovered Slash, I was like, yeah, okay, sweet. My parents bought me a Squier Strat. And I took guitar lessons, and I was fucking terrible for years as ya. But then, yeah, you take a little bit of time off here and there. But for the last 20 years, like, I've just always played.
Nice.
Yeah.
And did you have a band when you were over there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
we played the school assembly and everything.
Nice. So that would have been like your first show?
Yeah, that was the first show ever. We were called Foul Play.
Foul Play.
And we must have been shit.
Did you do originals?
We did a cover of Chop Suey, and then, we did an original.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
It wasn't good.
No, I can't imagine. Dude, I was MGK recently did a cover of... can't remember what song he did, but he did a System of a Down cover.
Oh, yeah.
Arkells.
Yeah, Arkells.
Terrible cover, because you gotta have the voice. You gotta
have the chops to play the instrument,
yeah.
And you gotta have the voice.
That voice. It's a very crucial part of the song.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it didn't sound great, but...
we were 12. We thought we were kings.
Hey, it's still, like, when you're playing something like System of a Down at that age... Yeah. It's not an easy thing to be doing, but the fact that you're already trying, that's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah. So you said you just recently went on vacation and just came back from Europe?
Yeah, I would, like, because of, everything, the pandemic and stuff, I hadn't been able to see my parents for 3 years. So it was my birthday last couple of weeks ago, and they were like, come over for your birthday. Things seem to be settling down now, whatever. So... I booked the flights, and then randomly I was in Iceland for 2 days along the way. I went to Reykjavik for a couple of days, and it's amazing. If you ever get a chance, go. I should be a spokesperson for bloody tourism Iceland because I keep telling everybody to go because, man, like, Reykjavik was one of the dopest places I've ever been in my life. And then, so, I went there for a couple of days. Then I was in England for, I think, 7 or 8 days or something. Went over to Paris for a couple of days. And then back to England, and then finally got back, I don't know, last Friday or something. Last Friday, yeah.
And the jet lag's nothing to you nowadays.
Well, not really. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. I tell you what, I was a bit secondhand when I went to work on Monday morning.
Yeah.
I was a little slow moving, but whatever.
Did you go to a dick museum in Iceland?
I did. Because, like, I didn't really know anything about Reykjavik other than where my hotel was. I didn't know if they spoke English. Turns out they do.
Oh, cool.
And so my hotel was actually like a block away from the Penis Museum. And so I'm like, all right, well, I guess like that's the only thing that I know that's in this city. I'll start there, right? And the first thing that I noticed about people in Iceland is A, they're super friendly, and then B, you can just drink 24/7 wherever you want.
Okay.
Because like I went there, and so you like go downstairs, and then they have a bar, and then but like attached to the bar is the Penis Museum. So you're like, oh, okay, all right, well, I guess I'll have a beer or whatever. And then, so I was sitting at the bar, and she's like, if you want, you can, like, take it in and, like, you can leave with it. I don't really care. So I was like, all right, okay. So I went through, and, like, that was, I don't know, man, like, that was kind of a thing to see. You know, the Icelandic hockey team or the Icelandic football team or something, they all did clona willies of their dicks. And then that was in the museum.
Nice.
Right, as well as, like, whale cocks and elephant cocks.
What about Rasputin's fucking penis?
There was something about Rasputin there, and I was like, man, this place is too much. But I will tell you this, though, when I went to leave, it's like 2:30 in the afternoon or something. Again, I don't have any Wi-Fi. I don't know anything about the city, right? And I said to the chick, I'm like, hey, are there any, like, cool rock and roll bars in town? And she's like, well, I'm not really, like, into rock and roll, but Lemmys is around the corner. Say no more.
Yeah.
Say no more. So I went in, and, man, the place is one of the coolest bars in the world.
Really?
Yeah, top 5 favorite bars I've ever been to.
And that's, like, a place he owned?
No, it's just...
This is a place that he went to all the time.
Some place that somebody was like, hey, I like Motorhead, and I'm going to call this bar Lemmys. And there was a giant, like, 6-foot wooden carved Lemmy in the corner. There was a cover band playing later that night, and they just did bloody metal covers all evening. Oh, it was wicked.
That's super cool.
I was off my face. And then I found out the next day that the Lemmys beer was 7.5%. I was like, well, no wonder I was wasted. Like, you know.
Yeah, only after a couple, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you've toured with some pretty cool bands. You've toured with Andrew WK.
Did some tour dates with
Andrew WK. Steel Panther.
I did Steel Panther,
yeah. So how is it touring with those kind of legends now?
Oh, it's amazing. Like, you know, I mean, the first time that we did a show with Panther, I mean, like, I'd been a fan of theirs for 10 years.
Right.
And, you know, obviously, like, the spandex and the wigs or whatever, when they're not on stage, you know, they're not wearing their wigs and spandex. Right. And so, you know, we went out, we were walking on stage one night, and Lexi was, you know, literally standing at the bar watching us do a set, and I was like, man, like, this is wild, you know. Like, I've been a fan of yours for literally 10 years, and you're watching me open for you. I'm like, this is super cool, you know. And you know, Andrew WK was amazing as well, like the party master. Like, he puts on a hell of a show. He's great. Like, absolutely hell of a show. So it was amazing. It was amazing.
That's good. Yeah. It's good to know that they're good people behind the scenes.
Yeah, they're amazing. Salt of the earth.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you also, I saw that you went to see John Cleese in St. Catharines recently.
Yeah, John Cleese was in town the other night.
So you're a big Monty Python fan?
Yes, I'm a bigger Fawlty Towers fan.
Okay, yeah.
I think, and I know that that's controversial, and I was literally talking to somebody about this last night, but I think Fawlty Towers is his best work ever.
Yeah, eh?
Yeah.
My dad watched a lot of Monty Python.
Yep.
My dad is a big England fan. He just like loves the beer there.
Yep.
He's visited there. He loves going there, and loves the comedy, of course, and like has always watched the movies, Holy Grail, Life of Brian, all of that growing up. And like, I seen that and I think he actually went as well.
Oh, okay,
Pretty sure he ended up going as well.
Yeah.
And I imagine it was a great show.
It was great. Yeah, you know, I mean, he told old stories, talked about old skits and stuff, and like they had like a big projector above the stage, and so they would play a skit, and then he would talk about it and talk about all these amazing comedians that he used to work with and stuff. Then there was like a Q&A section, and so you know, like, it was just really, really cool to see, him and, whatever. I mean, unfortunately, he's knocking on a bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much longer he's going to be with us.
Sure.
But it was amazing to see the legend in the flesh.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I've done a little bit of a deep dive on your Instagram.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that you've done some stand-up.
Oh, God.
And, when I moved here a number of years ago, and, like, one of the things I had to get used to was the subtle differences and the nuances within the Canadian English versus, like, the Queen's English, right? So, like, different wordings and different phrasings have different connotations and different meanings over here. So I'll give you a really small example. A small example would be, to you guys, when you say that you're pissed, means you're mad about something, right? But over in England, when we say we're pissed, it just means we're fucking drunk. I'm pretty fucking pissed right now, to tell you the truth. So another one would be like, another small example would be like, you guys say aluminum, we say aluminium. It's spelled differently, it's pronounced differently. Small example. Rather large example that I had to get used to. To you guys, an Irish car bomb is a drink. To me, it's just another Sunday in Manchester.
Is that a passive thing, or do you get up often?
It was like one of those things like years ago, so mom and dad moved back or whatever, and mom tries to come over like once a year, and so like when she's here, like we'd always be doing shows or whatever, so she comes see a gig or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then one time she was coming and we weren't doing a show. And so I was like, oh, I gotta do something. Right?
Sure.
And so anyway, I've always been known to tell really terrible and offensive jokes. Everybody, that's kind of what I'm known for. In fact, buddies of mine were on tour not too long ago, and they just get a random text, and it's like, hey, tell us some jokes. And I'm like at work, and I'm just firing off terrible jokes for them or whatever. But yeah, anyway, so I was like, you know what, like I should do a stand-up. And to be honest with you, it went so well that I don't think I'll ever do it again, because it'll never be able to be replicated to be that good.
Right, right.
Just all the stars aligned. I mean, my opening joke of the night was like, oh, I'm really stoked to be here. Thanks for having us. I'm wearing my favorite color, black. It's a very slimming color. Not for Aretha Franklin. Well, what makes that funny is that day she died. So like right out of the gate, I was already going to make the joke, and then she died, and I was like, well, now I got it.
Gotta go for it.
So anyway, yeah, no, it was great. It was great. It was one of those things that, could never be replicated the way that it was. Right. So I'll probably never do it again.
No,
unless I did like a completely different skit.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that was great. You gotta keep doing different things, right? I mean,
sure.
On one tour, with Hurricane, I was a light technician, like I was doing all their lighting.
Yeah.
And I ended up rapping a verse in one of the songs.
Nice.
You wouldn't expect me to be dropping a verse, but we did. So.
Hey, you made it happen, right?
Exactly.
Shout outs to Mites on the Hurricane,
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
We had Bergsma on the show.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So I think we can probably get into some Bandecdotes.
Sure.
So let's get into some wild stories. You actually prepped me a bit already on some of the Bandecdotes that you already had. One of them being a guest we already had on the show.
Yeah.
JJ.
Yeah.
So you played in a band, Lambs Become Lions.
Yes.
You played with JJ.
Yes.
Tell us the Bandecdote with JJ.
So like right around the end of Lambs, JJ was playing drums for another band.
Yeah.
I think it was Captor. I might be wrong.
Sure.
But anyway, so he sold all of his guitar gear to buy drums. All right. Okay, cool. But we still had a bunch of Lambs shows to do, right? So Riley, out of the goodness of his heart, said, okay, that's cool. No worries. You can use all of my gear. Now, Riley had some very, very nice, very expensive gear, right? So he was like, please, for the love of God, take care of it.
Right.
So, okay, fair. So we go up to Bell Vegas one night, and we do a show. Show was great. And we load the vans up, right? And we start heading home. After about half an hour, JJ's like, man, like, where's all, like, Riley's stuff? And he's, like, rummaging around the van. And I was like, I'm driving, right? And I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, it's got to be there. Like, how many green tour vans are there in the car park? Turns out there was 2, right? So he's like, man, you got to pull over, right? So I was like, all right. Bear in mind, it's like 1:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So pull over, tear the van apart, no gear. So he's like, I'm like, did you put it in the wrong tour van? And he's like, no, I wouldn't be that stupid. And I was like, well, you might be. So we phone the promoter, we find out the other band, and oddly enough, they're driving up the 401, but the other way. Right? So I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, man, like, this couldn't be worse, right? So we both chuck a Yui, and we both converge basically back at the venue. Right?
Yeah.
So he gets all the gear back. And and as he's dealing with this, I'm texting all of the other guys that we both worked with, because we both work together, right? And I'm like, haha, JJ put all the gear in the wrong tour van, and now we're driving back to Belleville. I'm going to be hella late for work or whatever. And so we close the door, get all the gear back, and he's like, hey, don't be saying anything to anybody. I don't want Riley to know. And so at this point, I've already told everybody that I work with, so I was just like, well, I guess whatever. So get to work the next morning, and the first thing that Mike said to him was, hey, I hear you put all your gear in the wrong tour van last night. And he's like, son of a bitch, I told Ken to not say anything. Oh, man, too good.
Oh,
too
man,
good.
That's great. That's a good Bandecdote. Yeah, yeah.
JJ, man, love him, but
yeah.
man, he's great.
Now, what about the man who slipped in piss?
Oh my God! So Mays did a show at the Bovine in Toronto.
Yeah,
it's CD release show probably 5 or 6 years ago or something. And so we do the gig and we party afterwards. And I got so wankered that I actually even went to the wrong hotel. Right.
Okay.
So I was defeated by the end of the night. So anyway, at some point in the night, I got to the right hotel, and we had like adjoining rooms. So there was like 2 queens in this one, 2 queen beds in that one or whatever, and then like they had that middle door that kind of opened between the 2 rooms. Right. Very, very 70s or 80s or whatever that was. And so anyway, at some point, some guy passed out on the can. And so we all just took to pissing in the bathtub. So I got up in the morning at like, I don't know, 6 a.m. or something, and I was absolutely hungover. And I kind of came to, I went to the bathroom, and I'm like, there's a guy sleeping in the tub, right? Not putting 2 and 2 together. So then I finish up, I go back, I lay down, I'm just dozing back off, and I hear all this commotion in the bathroom, and then the door just slams shut, right? And I'm like, wow, what's going on there? And so we kind of get up and we figure out, and somebody says, they're like, hey, what happened to Jeff or whatever his name was? I'm like, I don't know, man. I saw him sleeping in the bath. I thought it was funny. And he's like, you mean the bathtub that was filled with piss? And I was like, I guess that's why he jumped up and got the hell out of there as fast as possible, because, man, I swear to God, I've never seen this guy since. I have no clue who that guy was, what his name was, where he came from, but he's never shown his face ever since.
Really?
And I kind of don't blame him. You know?
That's friggin' hilarious.
It's next level.
And what's this about a band member thinking that Windsor is really close to London?
Okay, so now, for the sake of anonymity, I will refer to that person as Marcus.
Okay.
All right? And we will not specify which band we were in.
Sure.
Okay? So, anyway, we were doing a couple of gigs back to back. So I think we must have played London on the Friday, and then we were doing Sound of Music in Burlington on the Saturday.
Yep.
All right? This is going back a long time ago now. So, anyway, so we do London, and London was, from start to finish, a dreadful show. The turnout was dreadful, the promoter was dreadful, the venue was dreadful, like absolutely everything to do with it was dreadful, right? So we always have this rule of like, say 1 a.m. is roll call. So get in the tour van or we're leaving you behind. Right. So we finish up and we're just like action stations, pack up gear, throw it in the van, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
So at 1:45, I say I'm like literally putting the last pedal board in the van. And I say to the boys, I'm like, all right, let's get out of here. Let's go. And because it was only London and Burlington, we were just staying at home that night. We didn't have a hotel or anything, right? So old mate says to me, he's like, well, hang on a minute. I'm going to go to Windsor. I met this chick. I'm going to go to Windsor. And I was like, you going to go to Windsor? And he's like, yeah, man. Like, it's only 20 minutes away. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Have a good night. So, me and the rest of the boys jumped in the van, drove home, dropped everybody off, passed out, whatever. And so, as I'm laying in bed, dozing off, I text him. I'm like, hey, how's the drive, fucker? And he's like, you son of a bitch. He's like, you didn't tell me it was like 2.5 hours away. So anyway, the next day, he gets to the show, and he is looking haggard, right? So I'm like, how was your night? And he's like, man, I didn't even get laid. And I was like, well, what happened? He's like, well, after you texted me, she got pulled over by the OPP. Right? For doing 140 on the 401. So now she's in no mood at all. So they get back to her place at like 4 o'clock in the morning, all right? And she's got to get up at 6 or something to go to work.
Right.
So she turfs him out at 6:30 and drops him off at a hotel. Then he checks in at 6:30 in the morning at a hotel and sleeps until 11 when they kick him out of the hotel.
Right.
And he goes and gets a bus and then takes a Greyhound from Windsor to Burlington with God knows how many stops along the way. And I just said to him, I was like, man, at what point was the juice going to be worth the squeeze on this one? Like, there's no way it would have been worth it. Like, absolutely no way. Me and the rest of the boys, we showed up, we were showered, we were all, ready to do Sound of Music, which is a big festival, right?
Big festival.
And, old mate was just, was not in the mood. So he just hung out in the trailer all day. It's amazing.
So, as someone who has traveled so much, where's one of the most peculiar places you've ever played?
Oh, Truro, Nova Scotia.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Truro, Champions Bar and Grill in Truro, Nova Scotia.
What's going on there?
Well, not much. Not much. But, Truro is wild, man. Like, not a great turnout for the gigs.
Yeah.
But the people that were there, they were interesting. And we met this guy named Dave, and unfortunately for Dave, like, he was born with really, really deformed hands.
Okay.
But Dave really liked us and really liked our music, and then kept buying us beers. But unfortunately for Dave, he couldn't hold a pitcher or a pint glass properly.
Sure.
So every time he would bring us one, he would literally spill it everywhere. Which became hilarious at the end of the night. But I did feel really, really bad for the guy. Until we found that the bar had a breathalyzer test machine in it.
Yeah.
So then the band just took it upon ourselves to see who could get more drunk.
Right.
Right? No, forget who's the most sober. We were like, no, who's going to be the most drunk at the end of the night? So I can't remember who won. I think Mike won that one.
Yeah.
Brilliant, yeah.
Now, has there been any places that you've played that have been surprisingly like a good turnout, somewhere that you didn't expect it to be, like maybe a small town?
Like we played in Moncton, New Brunswick one night.
Moncton,
New Brunswick, at a place called Plan B.
Yeah, okay.
And the best part of that show was, and we had an amazing turnout, and I don't know why, but we were sitting in this taco bar, just having lunch or whatever. We had sound checked early in the day, whatever. We're sitting there having a late lunch, early dinner. And we always have like all access passes on our keychains. Right? And so I couldn't figure out why everybody was making a fuss about us at this like little taco joint. I'm like, man, like there can't be that many people here to see us. Like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, cut a long story short, we get and I mean, Moncton, like, Plan B is like maybe the size of this basement. Right?
Okay.
Like, you can get maybe 60 people in there at a show, at a push.
Yeah.
And it is rammed. So there's like, we go in and there's like 60 people in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, who do these people think we are, right? And it turns out that the chick that was sitting at the table behind us saw the all access pass and thought that we were the Arkells. So she had told everybody that the Arkells were playing at Plan B tonight, and people were showing up thinking that we were the Arkells. Now, thankfully, everybody stuck around,
right,
and had a good time, and and whatever. But yeah, man, I don't understand. Maybe she was half blind. I
Sure.
don't know. But yeah, she thought that we were the Arkells.
That's great.
And we had a great show.
Yeah.
So thank you to that lady, you know, if you're listening.
We Kyle and I, we play in a band called Sinner, and it's like more of a heavy band. And we were on this tour with a band called Trauma Model, and they booked a city in Quebec called Trois-Rivières.
Okay, yeah.
Great place.
Yeah.
We were kind of like, this is the first time I had even heard of the city, and I said, like, do we really need to kind of play there? And the guys we were booking the shows with, Trauma Model, they're like, no, like, trust me, like, you're gonna have a good time there. So we go out. These people showed up. This is a small town, like, again, like, it's off the beaten path. These guys showed up for hardcore. These guys went ballistic, and then we kind of knew, like Mitch from Trauma Model was like, you know, like, be prepared. So we prepared a Hatebreed cover.
Okay.
And we played a Hatebreed song, and they went bananas. They friggin' losing it. And one guy during this set split his head open.
Amazing.
And he couldn't have been more stoked about it. Unfortunately for the guys that we were playing with, Mitch from Trauma Model, they had actually linked up with that guy who had split his head open, and they had made plans to sleep at his house that night.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he had to go to the hospital to get his head sewn back together.
Yeah.
And
Man, we had a crazy show in Montreal one time because, like, that's a whole story in itself. But we were playing somewhere the night before Montreal.
Yeah.
And I like traveling so much, and like being in Quebec is kind of nice because they speak a different language.
Right.
Things are a little different there, or whatever, right? So, so I said, I was like, okay, guys, like, let's finish the show and then let's sleep in Montreal. And then at least we'll have the whole day in Montreal before the show, right?
Yeah.
So we do. So we get up there at 2:45 in the morning, all right? And so as I'm parking the tour van, Matt runs in and buys 15 pints.
Okay.
Right? And so now Mike's wife was with us for the weekend because she was actually at the University of Ottawa. So she was literally an hour down the road. We love PJ, so we were like, yeah, just come out and just hang out with us for the weekend, right? So she does. Well, PJ is celiac, so now there's 4 of us to drink 15 pints, and one of the other boys was like, oh, I don't feel like drinking, so now there's only 3 of us to drink 15 pints, and the barmaid was like, oh, that's great, guys, but you got to get out at 3:10. Right? So we start hammering back pints. Needless to say, after about 4 pints in 3 minutes, I puked, and I puked all of the cold beer up, and it was still cold.
Oh.
It was disgusting. But then we met this guy who was some German on some, I don't know, foreign exchange program or something. Anyway, he was working at the hostel, and he was really, really, really bad at speaking English. Like, he was really trying, but he was really bad at it. So we convinced him to come to the show, and the show is at this bar, and it was just filled with bikers. And it was off the charts, right? It was an awesome show.
Yeah.
But as we were like between songs or something, he comes crashing through the door, and he's like, "Hey, I fuck my asshole to be here. I fuck my asshole to be here." And I'm like, "What is he trying to say?" And we figured out that he was trying to say, "I busted my ass to be here." Dude, it was unreal. And we called him Rammstein all night, and he loved it.
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to that guy wherever he is.
Yeah.
Oh my god. He's probably in Berlin or something, living his best life.
Yeah.
He was a legend. Such a good bloke.
Rammstein.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any pre-show rituals?
Nah, I don't believe in any of that stuff.
No.
Nah, just drink beer and have a good time.
Just drink beer, get up on stage, try not to get into your head.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, I want to sit down and noodle for 10-15 minutes before I walk on stage, right?
Warm up the fingers.
Other than that, no.
Nothing that, yeah.
No, we do a little huddle every night, you know, like an Al Bundy or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, other than that, no, just shut up, drink beer, and, you know, go out there and put on a show.
Yeah.
You know?
Why do you call it an Al Bundy? Like when you get a huddle?
Yeah, you know, and you put all your hands together and you know, I don't know, you could say anything. You could say Ted Bundy for all I care, you know. But yeah, I think we just always did an Al Bundy.
Nice. There you go. Now, when you're traveling and on the road, what's your go-to gas station snack?
I That's a toughie. That's a toughie. You know what? Usually Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your go-to?
Yeah, sours.
Yeah?
Sour Patch Kids.
And
yeah.
do they, I imagine they have Sour Patch Kids in England?
No, but I just revert to Frutellas.
Okay.
Which are similar.
Yeah.
Little denser, little harder to chew.
Sure.
And Frutellas are...
Do they have better candy in England?
It's different.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's different. Like, chocolate is more chocolatey, if
Sure.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Guinness tastes way better on the other side of the pond.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
way
because I
better.
don't like Guinness.
Oh, no, you will over there.
Yeah, eh?
You will over there.
Oh, okay.
And Cardinal Sin. I was at a pub the other night. Surprise. And some guy gave me a Guinness that wasn't in a Guinness glass.
Okay.
It's against the law.
Yeah, you can't do
Against
that.
the law.
Yeah.
No, he should be condemned to death. Like, no.
Drowned him in Guinness.
Absolutely.
So let's say Maysides is at the level of Metallica. You guys are massive.
Yeah.
What's on the rider? What's the Rockstar Dream Rider? You have an unlimited budget.
Well, I know Mike's going to be like, oh, I want blue M&Ms. Usually, I reckon it would be like a green room just filled with like nostalgic video games and systems and stuff.
Yeah!
Right? Because the boys, I absolutely can't stand it, but the boys love playing Nintendo and
Okay.
Mario Kart and that sort of thing, or Mario Kart, however you would say it. So that would definitely be on the rider.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, you know. It's a plethora of barbecues for me because I love barbecue.
Right, right.
So yeah, any sort of barbecue dead animal would be my my go-to.
It's got the animal's got to be native to that area.
Yeah, like if we were playing in Finland or something, I'd say like, yeah, give me some reindeer.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
You know, I've never eaten a reindeer before, but I bet you they're bloody good.
Yeah.
You know?
Has there been any Ontario bands that have caught your attention within the last year or so?
To be honest with you, I feel like I've been a little bit out of it. I mean, off the top of my head, I would say no.
Yeah.
Because I love, you know, like European metal bands. Like
Sure.
Enforcer. Actually, I tell you what, like Skullfist put out a record recently. They're a Toronto speed metal band.
Yeah.
Record's pretty good. But yeah, like bands like Crash Diet and Enforcer, like Swedish metal and stuff, and Scandinavian metal, they're kind of my go-tos. Really.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, I think I've only got one more question for you.
Hit me.
What are your biggest, give me 5 favorites or most influential bands of all times? If you can't give me 5, give me 3.
I'll give you 5, and I'll give you five different reasons.
Sure.
Queen, because they're the greatest band ever.
Queen doesn't get... Well, a lot of people on the show, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but a lot of people on the show, you know, punk rock or heavier. Queen is a punk rock band, whether you want to admit it or
100%.
not. Yeah, they're fucking sick.
Yeah, Queen are, without a shadow of a doubt, the greatest band ever.
Yeah.
Right? There will never be another band like Queen. To the same effect, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Because GNR are, obviously, they've got the most special place in my heart. I love them to death.
Yeah.
Next one's going to throw you off. Gwar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Gwar are the most ridiculous band in the universe. And I love what Gwar is.
I love that you said universe too.
Yeah,
right?
because they they want
Gwar.
to be a band for 1,000 years, and they want to and I mean, like, through all the difficulties, I mean, members, you know, I
Right.
mean, obviously Dave Brocky passing a few years ago, but even the way that they covered that up in the Gwar universe, Volvatron coming back and taking Odorous to the year 69,000. You're just like, man, like, who thinks of this?
Yeah.
Like, it's brilliant, and I love it to death. 4 would be a Swedish metal band called Crash Diet. They just released a new record.
Crash Diet?
Crash Diet. Yeah. They've got a really checkered history. 6 albums, 4 singers. It's
Really?
yeah, like, unfortunately, Dave committed suicide after the first record. Second singer on the second record didn't really work out. Then they got the third singer from my favorite era of Crash Diet, and they did the third and fourth record, and then he buggered off. I don't know what he ended up doing.
Yeah.
And then now they've got a new guy who's wicked on album 5 and 6. So with any luck, Gabriel will stick around, and then, like, it'll just be Crash Diet
Yeah.
forever. But they've endured it all. So like and they're the nicest guys. Like 10 or 12 years ago, I flew to England for 2 days to see them play 2 shows.
Nice.
And they signed one of my guitars, and
Sick.
you know they're just some of the greatest dudes ever. So they always have a special place in my heart. And lastly, number 5, AC/DC, because AC/DC are like one of the greatest.
Yeah.
I have a special move actually. Every time I go to a bar that has a jukebox, I put on 3 hours worth of AC/DC.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even if I'm not going to be there for 3 hours, I'll put on 3 hours of AC/DC because that's about the perfect amount of AC/DC.
Yeah, just 3 hours worth.
3 hours worth of AC/DC.
It's funny that anytime I get a jukebox, I put on 3 hours worth of music, but I try to put on the longest songs.
Yeah.
So Indigada Davida.
Okay.
I think the Leonard Skinner song, Freebird, and all sorts of like Black Sabbath, and just trying to stretch it out as long as I can, because someone, as soon as they hear that shit, they're like, oh, I gotta turn this off, right? So you're like, no.
Well, that's what I always do though. I swipe the credit card because I hate credit cards now, which is amazing. But I'll always pay the extra credit to put the next song first.
Playing the next song.
So like the next song is always the first song, right? So it's almost impossible. Unless you want to out-credit me to jump my AC/DC. Yeah. And most people hate it, but I don't really care. Because sometimes, my buddy Andy, I'm going to be on the road with the Lazies, this Aussie rock band, later this year. My buddy Andy and I, we did a show, and we went to, that Harry's New York place in Thorold.
Oh, okay,
New York Harry's, or Scorecard Harry's, whatever the place is called. Anyway, we were wankered. So I put on, 3 hours of AC/DC. But I put on Safe in New York City 8 times in a row. And by the 8th time, the rest of the bar was like, you guys please need to leave. Please. Oh, it's amazing.
That's great. That's great. Right on. Well, I think we can end it there. Just if you want to plug all the social medias for all the bands, and if you have anything else that you want to give a plug or shout outs to, now would be your time.
I'm good, mate. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm good. Yeah.
What are the social medias for Maysides?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, Maysides is just, Maysides, Instagram.com/Maysides or whatever. Facebook's all the same. And then all of my stuff, all my solo stuff will be released, I don't know, end of July. So,
Perfect.
Yeah, well, it'll be all tagged up and whatever from there.
Perfect.
Just kind of waiting to release everything,
Catch it there, folks.